And welcome once again to another episode of the Horizon Roundtable on our new home, the first episode on our new home at horizonroundtable.com as well as anchor.fm. I am Bob McDonald, and you can find me on Twitter at Bob McDonald. My co-host Jimmy Lemke, who you can find on Twitter at PantherU, will not be joining us. We record on Sundays, and it's the draw of Giannis Antetokounmpo is too great. The Bucks are playing right about the exact same time as we were recording. So Jimmy's love of Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Bucks is going to take precedence here. Totally understandable. We'll have him back on. We'll have him back on next episode and in the future, of course. You can also find episodes. You can also find the podcast on Twitter at HorizonRT. Like I said, really exciting time here. This is our first broadcast outside of Sports Acts. I always want to thank Damian Bowman for being our main guy helping us out both at his old site fourlights.fm and at Sports Hacks. So was really thankful to have his help during our time on those two particular platforms, but we are now here. So that's interesting, and we are really excited because this is going to be, this coming month is going to be a very exciting one for us. We are in the process, and we are going to be our planned guest, and we're looking forward to having both of these guys on. First and foremost, we are. It's looking very good that we will be talking to Cleveland State's new athletic director, Scott Garrett. So that's going to be an exciting conversation for us, as well as a little later on in the month, after the spring signing period is over. And I know you guys are all really excited about this. We're going to have Greg Kampe, the head coach of Oakland, on. So you definitely don't want to miss those things. And, we definitely got some exciting things coming up over the summer. So stay tuned, and you're not going to be bored, believe me. But this week, our primary focus is Northern Kentucky. And I know you're going to say this, like, Bob, every time you turn around, you're talking about Northern Kentucky. And, well, there's things going on over there. Like, for example, the fact that they just hired a new head coach in Darrin Horn. So we have the editor-in-chief of Northern Kentucky's student newspaper, The Northerner, Sam Rosenstiel. He's going to be joining us today. Him and their sports editor, Sierra Newton, have been really on the case in the search and kind of everything that's gone on. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and have that conversation with Sam. So I am now joined here by Sam Rosenstiel. I hope I got that pronunciation right, because I said that in the introduction, and hope I didn't butcher it.
You sure did. That's awesome. Thank you for having us. The Northerner is super excited to be involved.
Yes. So Sam, I know, as I mentioned in the introduction, you and Sierra Newton have been kind of been on the case, really been on the case as far as the coaching search has gone on. I mean, this is for the time frame it's been. So, I mean, we actually, it was like a couple weeks ago. Because I had Kyle Craven on.
Yes.
At the time, exactly when the Cincinnati made the announcement. So that was 2 weeks ago Sunday.
That's right.
No less than a week, a little more than a week later, Northern Kentucky's on it and get their guy. Which, by the way, I'm sure that the folks at UCLA and St. John's are super jealous that happened. Those two searches seem to be taking forever, or have taken forever. But so Before we talk a little bit more about Darrin Horn, who I have some, which has some kind of overlap with some Horizon League coaches.
Yep.
Looking at you, Dennis Felton.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, as they were working through, kind of walk me through, what you know about kind of how the process has gone. I understand they went with a search firm, Parker. I'm generally not a fan of the search firms, but apparently in this case it seemed to work out pretty well.
It seemed to have done so, yes. Everyone in the newsroom, we were kind of split. I thought for sure it was going to be Chris Shoemate here. He's been an assistant since 2015. Mm-hmm. He knows the Brandon playbook and espouses the aggressive offense. He was actually an assistant to Mick Cronin. And he has Western Kentucky, Tennessee, Southern Mississippi credentials. I thought for sure he'd be the most practical pick, and I thought that, when we had an announcement, that it was going to be him for sure. Mm-hmm. And then Pat Kelsey, too, a really, really great with the Winthrop Eagles, winningest coach in Big South history. He's been to March Madness 5 times. Mm-hmm. He would have been getting a raise coming to BB&T, but all of a sudden, Darrin Horn, kind of coming out of nowhere. He was not on our radar at all, but he seems like the right guy for the job, and I'm pretty excited about having Darrin Horn here.
Yeah. So it's interesting you mentioned the Pat Kelsey situation, because there were, as you probably saw, there was a lot of buzz about, he was made an offer and he decided he's going to turn it down, go back to Winthrop.
Right.
So that was an interesting situation. Is there any kind of, would you know if there's like any truth to that? I mean, it seems like there was a lot of buzz before and it was literally like a half an hour before they made the official announcement that Horn was going to get hired.
That's true. And that was why we were so. I think the announcement came on Tuesday, or the news broke Tuesday. Yeah. I've been doing that all week. Darrin Horn had been picked as coach, and that's a print deadline for the Northerner, because we post on Wednesdays. We post our paper on Wednesday. Uh-huh. Sources had been tweeting and people had been buzzing about Pat Kelsey. There's an agreement in principle that he's going to be the next head coach, and then that fell through. So we were really hesitant. We were like, do we print something on Darrin Horn? Like, do we go with that? I mean, are we going to get burned? Are we going to look like idiots when on Wednesday it's announced that he's staying at Texas? Sure. So no, yeah, I have no idea about any of that. But the buzz was palpable, and we were worried about that for sure.
You can be forgiven for confusing Darrin Horn with Darren Nichols, because of course Darius Nichols was also up for the job too. So I mean, I totally understand that.
He was also on our story, our top picks, because he has an NK tie for sure between the D2 D1 era. Yeah. I've been doing that all week. Sierra's been really because I keep saying Darius Horn and Darren Nichols, and it's hilarious.
All right. So at the end of the day, Darren Nichols. Oh crap! You got me doing it now.
I know. I'm sorry.
But at the end of the day, so now Darrin Horn is your guy. So Darrin Horn, from kind of his background, he is a Kentucky guy through and through. I mean, sound like, what is he like? He was born and raised in like Lexington.
Yeah, and he's a native. He for WKU in the early '90s. You might remember his game-winning 3 against Louisville in 1993. I know
Louisville doesn't forget it.
I know. And then right after he stopped playing there, he was assistant under Kilcullen, Matt Kilcullen. From there, went to he came back to WKU in 2003.
Yes.
He had stints at Marquette where he was coach on the team with Dwayne Wade.
Yes.
He's coached a lot of NBA players.
By the way, when the announcement was made, he got a co-sign in the form of a tweet from D Wade. So that's hell of a co-sign right there. But by the way, so he was the head coach at Western Kentucky in 2003. This is important for you Horizon League fans because the guy he replaced is Dennis Felton. Dennis Felton, of course, who is now the head coach at Cleveland State. So we're in the process. Horizon League is clearly in the process of collecting ex-Western Kentucky coaches. So it's I wonder who else we're gonna get. I think Ray Harper and Ken McDonald are still out there right now. So I don't know. Well, it's funny that because Harper, as I understand it, Harper, who is the current head coach at Jacksonville State right now, he had, for whatever reason, his name had popped up during this search, which as I understand it correctly, would have been kind of a sore subject for some of the old Northern Kentucky D2 holdovers, as I understand it. Given the fact that he was that Harper was the head coach at Kentucky Wesleyan in his D2 days, so that would have been very interesting. I'm not really kind of abreast of the rivalry between Kentucky Wesleyan and Northern Kentucky, but that probably there would have been some questions that needed to be answered on that.
That might rub a couple people the wrong way, and that might be a little bit before my time, but that would have been interesting.
So, but I mean, I'm sure there may be one or two Horizon League jobs open some other time, in the next year. So, we're not giving up on collecting all of the Western Kentucky coaches. It's like it's like a college basketball version of Pokemon, I guess.
Oh yeah, gotta get them all. Gotta catch them all. Earlier last week, late last week, Northern Kentucky has the press conference with Darrin Horn. My question to you, of course, is kind of what was your first impression of the man? I mean, just based on that, I know everybody, in sports, it's all, sometimes it's about winning the press conference. So what was your impression of Horn when he, stepped up to the podium and took over officially? Well, first of all, and this will definitely mean something to your Cincinnati listeners, but Sierra did get to ask him if he had sampled Cincinnati chili, and he, of course, said yes, and he's a Skyline guy, so he's a man after my own heart there. No, but serious first impressions. His quote, why do you jump on Northern Kentucky University? It's pretty simple. Winning, that's what we're all here for, winning. This is a program that has won, has a tradition of winning, and is winning now, and it can continue to win and win even bigger. That was huge for me. He's obviously very confident. He has already read the strategic framework for our university, not just just for athletics. This is the new student-centric branded program that will guide our university for like the next 4 or 5 years.
Oh, okay.
He just that gesture alone really sold it for me that he is fully into NKU. He had 2 days to do his homework, and he sure did. And he expressed that he's not after just successful basketball careers here, but He wants his students, as part of this program, he wants his students to get degrees, become better husbands and fathers and professionals. That was something that stood out for me in a way that really stuck with me.
Yeah. One of the things that I saw within the press conference I thought was a nice gesture, and is the fact that he recognized the current members of the team and said, and if I'm probably paraphrasing, it's like they were one of the reasons for him to make the decision to want to be here.
Absolutely.
So what did you think about that particular comment? Because obviously, these guys have spent their entire, most of their careers, with one guy. They had John Brandon for all this time, and now they got this new guy coming in. What does it say that the new coach is, really giving props to what Brandon did as a coach and the type of player, kind of showing some appreciation for the players that are here.
I couldn't agree more with your point. That is a huge step forward and a really good gesture of goodwill. I think that's super important for a new coach to come in and give props to those players and to recognize who came before, because he's got some big shoes to fill with John Brandon. I do. I'm very excited to see John, Coach Brandon, at the other side of the river. Well, I'll be watching UC a little more closely than I have in the past. Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
that does bring up actually another question, and this is actually a very good one because you have because they put together Northern Kentucky put together the deal, the home and home between Northern Kentucky and Cincinnati, and the return game to BB&T Arena was scheduled for this next season. Is that still going? Do you know if that's still going to happen? I mean, theoretically, John Brannon is the coach. I wouldn't think he'd kind of back out of that.
I don't think so either. I'll work to confirm that with Sierra, but no, I don't know if that's still on. That would be a hard game for me. I think I'd have to sew together a couple shirts and just have half of it Bearcats, half of it Norse. I'm a Norse fan through and through. Don't get me wrong, but John Brannon came in when I was a freshman in college and started winning already, and now he's kind of. It's bittersweet that he's leaving, but he's kind of leaving with me as I graduate in 2 weeks. I feel like I'm graduating with him, so I got that kind of connection.
There you go,
Coach Brannon. Yeah.
Yes. The only parallel I can come up with is there's a couple of parallels. It would be like Wright State finally being able to play Dayton, which Dayton apparently never wants to do, or Cleveland State playing Ohio State in Cleveland, where basically everybody and I actually made this quip earlier this year, earlier in the week about because Ohio State is going to be playing West Virginia at what is now whatever it was Quicken Loans Arena. Now it's Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. It's a big flap up here in Cleveland, in the Cleveland area. But I had made mention of the fact that it's a game that's on December 29th, and Cleveland State probably won't be involved in it because that will probably be right when the Horizon League team's schedule starts. But anytime I see Cleveland State playing Ohio State, it reminds me, and I'm sure I'm going to have a conversation about this with Scott Garrett, the new AD, soon about this, is that there's been this big push over the last year with Cleveland State that they keep mentioning the fact that Cleveland State is the only Division I school in Cleveland. But then I also say, you may be the only Division I school in Cleveland, but you are not Cleveland's Division I school. That's Ohio State.
Right. Right.
And even within the walls of Cleveland State, I know that's true. There's way more Ohio State. Yeah, so that's it. Those would be kind of the equivalents. Not necessarily, but the thing with Northern Kentucky though is you've gotten to, whereas Cleveland State has spent the last 4 years losing 20+ games, and it faded into mass obscurity, which I'm sure I'll talk about in another segment or some other episode, as I usually do. Northern Kentucky's situation is quite a bit different now. You have a situation with Northern Kentucky where there's already a winning culture in place with John Brannon, and now it's going to carry. The goal is to carry forward with Darrin Horn in that same regard. And the big thing is, because of that, and the fact that the Norse have been in the postseason for the last 3 seasons, 2 NCAA tournaments, 1 NIT tournament.
That's right. Is
that they're, and also with kind of the speed in which they were able to get a replacement for John Brannon, and a quality one at that, it appears. The goal, it seems like, is to really focus on continuing that winning culture, and then when you get to a point where you're playing a Cincinnati where split loyalties are going to be prevalent, that the fan base sees that winning culture in Northern Kentucky and is more apt to go with their home team as opposed to the team across the river.
Absolutely.
You see, I've thought about this for a while.
I can tell.
Well, yeah. I mean, believe me, but it is very true. So that's that. But I'd be very interested again to see kind of how that's going to play out next year. I really do think that I would think that game is still going to be on. Would be nice.
Yeah.
So
I love that. I'm looking forward to it. I'll be coming back as an alumnus, and I will be. Yeah, I'll have to decide on my way in the door who I'm rooting for and where my These are lying.
You got to be. Is this a situation where you'll be flipping a coin and then that'll be that?
I might have to, honestly, and depending on heads or tails, I'll wear a Norse shirt or I'll break down and buy a Bearcats hat or something.
There you go. So one of the other things that there are obviously a couple of questions that are still kind of lingering, obviously. One being his coaching staff. And that's kind of a question of, is there any opportunity, is there going to be any opportunity for him to retain any of the staff, any of Brannon's staff? And you think you know where I'm going with this?
I might. I am looking at our athletics website right now. Chris Shoemate is still listed as our assistant men's basketball coach for next year. Though I had heard a rumor that he might be going to Arkansas.
Really?
With J.C. Gardner of Norse Report, I believe, is looking at that. He says it's not confirmed yet. Again, just a rumor, but he is still listed with us.
Okay.
I don't know if that's where you were going with that.
Yes, that's exactly where I was going with that.
All right,
good call.
All right. Just checking. No, yeah, and he would be great to keep on. Again, he was my top pick for head coach. So if we could keep him around for as long as possible, that'd be great.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, and the Arkansas thing's kind of new. I really thought it was going to be a higher likelihood that he was going to join Brannon on the UC staff, but obviously he's got some options.
Yes, he does.
That's going to be that. Yeah, if he's getting offers from high majors right now, that's going to be a real tough. That's going to be a real tough hold there. So that's it may be a situation where Horn is probably going to be looking for his own staff, and he may, and again, to me, actually, Horn's obviously got an advantage because he's a Kentucky guy, so he's probably going to be looking. I mean, he could definitely be looking in that general vicinity, to be sure.
Sure, absolutely.
So, which leads me actually kind of to the next part of this. Obviously, we were right smack dab in the middle of the spring signing period, and before this even started, right after John Brannon left for UC, two of Northern Kentucky's commits, DJ Robertson and Marcus Domask, both reopened their recruitment. Robertson, I believe, has already signed with Florida Atlantic, so he's kind of off the table. But Domask is still there. Apparently he's still deciding, and a whole bunch of teams have kind of jumped back in it, including a couple of Horizon League schools, Green Bay being one of them. Mm-hmm. But it does not appear that Northern Kentucky is giving up hope, because I think they are still in the mix there. So if you are Darrin Horn, and this is, Domask was kind of like he's Wisconsin Mr. Basketball, as I understand it. So he's kind of the crown jewel of the recruiting period for not just Northern Kentucky, but I'm sure it would be a big get for any other Horizon League school too. So if you're Darrin Horn, what is what is the pitch that you want to get to that guy to get him on board?
I look at our record. I mean, we are a winning team. We have a lot of momentum, and it's only going to get better. And I'm sure Sierra has a lot of thoughts on this. I would defer to her on that one.
Sure.
But yeah, look at this team. Look at what has been accomplished so far. This is where your future could be.
Sure. The one other thing too, So. And now with Robertson off the table,
sure.
I guess the question now is, what other? I mean, I haven't exactly looked at kind of the needs of the current team at this point in time. Obviously, Drew McDonald has graduated, so that's obviously a big hole to fill. And
a belated happy Drew McDonald Day to you. I don't know if you saw, we were writing a story about it in the Northerner. On April 26th in Cold Spring is Drew McDonald Day. So
I missed Drew McDonald Day. Wow.
You missed McDonald Day. We had a cake and everything.
Man, see this is what happens. I was so focused on going to see Avengers Endgame that I completely missed Drew McDonald Day. This is so sad. So very sad. Bad.
No, sorry to derail you.
And by the way, don't spoil the Endgame. That's our PSA.
I haven't seen it.
There you go. See, don't spoil the Endgame.
You're gonna ruin it.
So, I guess the question would, since they're still looking. Obviously, they're looking in a bunch of different directions. Is there any idea, kind of where Horn wants to go in terms of recruiting? Obviously, who he had, who was committed originally, kind of was a diverse group,
right?
Both on the front court and the back court. So, is that kind of the is he still looking into that general direction? I mean, obviously, we're not going to know until the end of May, or is he going? Or would he potentially go the transfer? Look in the transfer portal, because there's like 1 million people in there.
That I am not sure about. I know we still have a pretty strong team with Tyler Sharp. We still got Trevon Faulkner and Jalen Tate. I think anything's possible at this point.
Sure.
And that's definitely what we'll be asking soon. We're hoping to get some one-on-one time with him soon about the future of the team.
Sure. Now, in terms of the current team, obviously you mentioned, they have Northern Kentucky, even before the Brandon departure. You in spite of losing McDonald, you still had a pretty solid core. I mean, you're still, even without Drew McDonald, you can, I think it's pretty. There's an objective agreement that the Norse is still well positioned in the top half of the Horizon League next year. Regardless, you can't between Jalen Tate, between Tyler Sharp, and others. It seems like there's a little bit they're a little bit more well positioned. Now, one thing that kind of struck me as intriguing with Darrin Horn is during his time at Texas, his last job, where he's working where he's the assistant under Shaka Smart. Right. His primary focus was on the big men. And of course, the one notable name out of there is Mo Bamba. I mean, the guy who's got his own song.
Oh yeah, Shaq West, of course. Yeah,
that's right. So, how excited do you think excited do you think Chris Vogt is now? Now that he got a guy in, he got a guy in whose specialty is big men.
This is probably his dream pick for head coach. I'm sure Chris is over the moon about it. I totally agree.
Yeah. I don't think I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be. I mean, I don't know if we're going to get to the song stage with Chris Vogt, but you never know. I don't know.
I don't know. See, Chris Vogt, that could be a hook, right?
I don't know, man. I'm leaving that. The Valhalla Vanguard guys do have they have musicians on during their they play tracks on their podcast. I'm gonna leave that up to them. See if they can kind of get one of the folks at their get one of their guys to kind of whip something up. I don't know.
I'd be so excited. We'd blast that in the newsroom constantly. We'd love it. That'd be hilarious. That'd be awesome.
Well, yeah. So it would not having a Horizon League player have a song named after them would not be unprecedented. Norris Cole has his own song. The former Cleveland State player, he has his own song.
Really?
As I understand it, Kiefer Sykes, the former Green Bay player, also has his own song. I've never heard that song.
I know. I did not know that.
Yes, the Norris Cole song we actually featured on this podcast a couple years ago when Norris Cole got his number retired. So we know it exists because we have it, and I'm sure I played it multiple times since then. So it's not unprecedented for a mid-major player to get his own song. So, I mean, and again, given the popularity of the growing popularity of Northern Kentucky basketball, it is not out of the realm of possibility.
No, I totally agree. Doesn't Drew have a song?
I don't know.
Arnold had a farm. E-I-E-I-O.
Oh, yeah, wow.
That's about him, right? That's how I learned it.
I'm glad you threw the.
Okay, my lame pitch for Horizon League song. Nah, I'll work on it.
Yes, please. That's both Drew and I are as McDonald's are offended. So, and it's McDonald MAC had a farm.
Of course, that's right. Yeah, that's why I need a copy editor. That's exactly why I need it.
There you go. As far as we've talked a lot about we've talked about kind of the momentum in terms of performance on the court and kind of what we have discussed, how we think Darrin Horn is going to kind of operate. I think the other thing too, how are you seeing? And I already see it already. Obviously, the Vanguard guys are all over this right now. But as far as and we talked a little bit about the popularity. Where do you think that in terms of this fan base? Where do you think that what direction do you think? Where do you think they're going to go from here? Because obviously, if you're a Northern Kentucky fan right now, you've already been graced with winning seasons and postseason tournament appearances, and that's usually there's a lot of sustained success that let's be honest, puts butts in seats. So as far as the fan base is concerned, what direction do you think that the fan base is going to go as far as their kind of how they're going to perceive this coaching change moving forward?
Oh, I think that fans have a lot to be happy about with Darrin Horn. And he said this during the press conference. This was the other point that I think the Cincinnati Enquirer here really latched onto. This was their lead. But as BB&T Arena being a place that is difficult for other teams to play at because of the fans, as long as the energy and the momentum is there, we can even take that to another level. He said we're knocking on the door of someone being somebody to reckon with. We don't want to just knock on that door. We don't want to open it up a little bit. We want to put off the hinges. I think that's something for fans to be super excited about. Sure. And his resume speaks for itself. I think this is someone that fans should be getting very, very excited about. I know.
Sure. Yeah, obviously, and as you mentioned, BB&T Arena was already it is a quality facility. I myself have not been. I'm sure I will get there eventually, but definitely looks like a great facility, and the fans are now that combination of the good facility and that growing fan base. Sky's the limit, obviously.
Oh yeah, and it can't just be during those Wright State games. I think I'm echoing what the Valhalla guys say every week there's a game, but it can't just be during the tournament. It can't just be when the season is getting hot. We want to make BB&T Arena somewhere to be feared all the time, all the time, which I think can be done. I think can be done. We have a huge fan base. We just got to get them in the seats.
Yes, and that's very important. And again, winning matters, and winning not just winning matters. Obviously, if you win in the mid-major level, that's great, but there's got to be more to it. And again, to have that kind of experience, the experience is important as well, of course.
Absolutely.
So, the one last thing I wanted to I want to kind of veer off, I know we've talked a lot about the men's basketball team, but I feel like it would be irresponsible not to address this because this actually came across, but this is about a month ago that this kind of came across everybody's desk. The situation on the women's side with their coach, Camryn Whitaker. Could you kind of... for those who aren't familiar, Sam, could you kind of walk us through kind of that situation of kind of what happened at the beginning of April, end of March, beginning of April?
Absolutely. So on March 24th, Taryn Taher, who's an NKU senior and at this point outgoing, women's basketball player, accused the head coach of Norse women's basketball, Camryn Whitaker, of emotional abuse and bullying, including you can read more of the specifics on thenortherner.com, but in the post, she detailed a crying couch where Whitaker would make players sit as she berated them. She kicked knees out from under players. There were put downs during practices and dividing up players. Certain players were kind of branded with a scarlet letter almost. You would not be able to interact with certain players if they had an energy that Coach Whitaker did not like. In light of that, several other players actually spoke to the Northerner, including Sheree Davis and Casey Utrecht, who were former players who have long since graduated, who echoed some of these concerns and even brought forward Title IX documents. At this point, the university is conducting an independent external review and assessment of the program. And in the meantime, there hasn't been any formal update on Coach Whitaker's status with the team. And some of the documents that the Northerner has requested and asked for from the university are now part of that external review. We've not been able to see exactly what has been documented of these accusations. Unfortunately, it is still kind of their word against the university's no comment, or rather, Coach Whitaker's no comment. The university did respond and said that they do care about their players and they are reviewing this, but.
Yeah, because that was it. Yeah, I know that when that came out, that was kind of a wow. That's not good. And I bring this up again, kind of in light of the fact that, in light of kind of some other news within women's basketball, as you know, North Carolina's head coach just resigned. Under similar circumstances.
And I understand there was a racist element, which has not been really put into the Whitaker saga here, but yes, very similar actions. I really don't know what could happen here. I invite Coach Whitaker to come talk to us, of course, and we've asked for statements and their side of the story, but as of late, I don't have any new information, unfortunately.
Nah, well, it happens. So I guess for those of you who have been following the story, stay tuned.
Yes, absolutely. This is not over. I mean, we're gonna have to address it before the next season. I mean, at some point.
Well, obviously, yeah, that's it. Yeah, and that's a huge deal because the women's basketball team kind of had it looked like they did kind of have a down year this year. I mean. But then again, the top four teams in the women's rankings are just they're just monstrous. So there's if you can get past Green Bay, Wright State, Youngstown State, and IUPUI, I mean all four of those teams just were absolutely phenomenal this year. And the fact so that's you could chalk that up to it's weird because for as many times as we've talked about the men on the men's side kind of having a lot of down years the last couple of years, the women have been actually kind of the opposite.
Unfortunately.
Well, it also helps that you have like kind of a dynastic program like Green Bay to put it together. I mean, it's like Borseth is kind of been like the rock of that program forever. Except for his time at Michigan that didn't end very well. So, but beyond that, yeah, obviously it's again the competition is a little, but again it's kind of apples and oranges, and in the Northern Kentucky situation, it's you have to be, especially with that fierce competition at the top half of the conference, you can ill afford any missteps, and honestly, this is kind of a big one.
Yeah.
whether or not it's whether or not anything comes to the fore from it. I mean, the fact that it's out there is a huge issue. It's going to be a huge issue moving forward, no matter what.
It's a blow to recruiting. It's a black eye on the face of the athletics, really. Unfortunately, this is going to have long-reaching consequences, whether something comes of it or not. As far as like the status of Coach Whitaker, but all
right,
I agree.
So Sam, so Sam, I think that kind of wraps it up for us. Really, thank you for coming on board. As Jimmy and I have mentioned many times over the time we've been on the podcast, we're big fans of student media. As you may well know, we had our student media forum last year, and we're probably going to have that again this year. And we had a great time with it, and as two guys who came up in student media, obviously we appreciate the work you guys do, and we're glad to have you guys on, and you guys have definitely kind of added a lot more than we would have thought of. Bob, to this conversation.
Thank you so much for having the Northerner on, and I really look forward to having you sit down with Sierra soon and talk more about men's hoops.
All right, so Sam, where can people find you on Twitter?
Well, sure, I'm at Sam Rosensteel on Twitter. You can also follow Northerner Media at Northerner Media and our sports page at Northerner Sport. So definitely check us out. Check us out on Facebook. We have our own sports podcast on at Northerner Media on SoundCloud, and we're also on Instagram.
Excellent. All right. Great. Thank you very much, Sam, and thank you for joining us.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Bob. Take care.
We'd like to thank once again Sam Rosensteel for joining us on the podcast. As he mentioned, he is. You can find him on Twitter at Sam Rosensteel. He's part of the Northerner. You can find them on Twitter at Northerner Media. Like I said, always a great time when you have an opportunity to talk to the kids who are working on the ground on campus. To me, it's always been kind of the best. They theoretically should be the best resources. I know that certain schools have been kind of coming up short, but definitely not Northern Kentucky. And they're a good example of that. As are a lot of the schools that we've had on. As are a lot of the representatives from student papers we've had on. And even student radio. I know Oakland does a good job as well. So we're going to kind of wrap this up. As always, you can find episodes of the Horizon Roundtable on our new home, as I told you, and at horizonroundtable.com. You can find all of our episodes wherever podcasts are found. I think we did finally, once we made the migration, it looks like we're good to go. Looks like all of you can find new episodes on all the podcast apps. So if you cannot find it on your podcast app, let us know. We'll make sure that we can get that fixed. And we're definitely on and like I said, we're definitely on anchor.com. If you download the Anchor app, you can even record a message, and like I said, we can actually get to a point where we might even put some of you on the air with that. So with that said, that's going to wrap it up. Again, we're getting into a very exciting off season for us. So definitely stay tuned. And of course, thank you all for listening.